We are going to be touching on Jose's latest falling out with Paul Pogba. It seems it's all down to an Instagram video posted around this time last night. I will also touch in with Shay, who's the goalkeeping coach at Derby County after their penalties victory over Manchester United in the third round of the Carabao Cup. We're just seeing Watford leading Tottenham by an Isaac Success goal to nil. But great to see Alan Judge getting on the score sheet, Kev, at the Emirates.
Brilliant free kick.
Back into that game.
Yeah, brilliant free kick. Shane just mentioned Daryl Murphy on the score sheet tonight. It's nice for him as well. He won't be part of the squad.
Can we get him back?
Now. Yeah, exactly. It's true. But Alan Judge, what a lovely free kick. 2-1 down. I said at the start of the game, it'd be a good game, that opening attacking. We're not able to see it. Obviously, we've been watching the Liverpool-Chelsea game out there, but brilliant free kick from him, yeah.
Fantastic free kick. So it's Arsenal 2, Brentford 1, the latest score from the Emirates, with just past the hour mark played there. Daniel Sturridge with that brilliant scissors kick. Have fantastic reactions from a striker reborn for Liverpool so far this season.
Particularly after his miss as well. He missed a sitter open goal. So, but it was his reaction. I think. I've been noticing about Sturridge this season. He just looked to be moving a lot better. I think he maybe a bit more confidence in his fitness levels, his body, I think, as well in general. So yeah, that was a great adjustment, great goal.
Elsewhere, for Nottingham Forest, as you mentioned, leading by 3-1 at home to Stoke. Benicophobe bringing Stoke back into that game. Joe Lolly, Darren Murphy and Ben Osborne with the Forest goals tonight. West Ham cruising at home to League 2 Macclesfield Town, as we might have expected they would, but not necessarily as comfortably. Robert Snodgrass, in fact, it's just gone 7-0 there as well. Robert Snodgrass has gotten 2 so far.
An O'Hara goal as well.
Agbana, is he on goal for Macclesfield? Bad night's work for him, unfortunately. Mikel Antonio opened scoring, Lucas Perez has gotten on the score sheet there. Ryan Fredericks, the summer signing from Fulham, has scored 2 for West Ham. So a really good night's work from Mauricio Pellegrini's side, and they are flying. And as I mentioned, that Isaac Success goal from Watford sees them leading at Stadium MK against Tottenham, although that one was an 8 o'clock kickoff, so slightly longer to play for Spurs to get back into that game. It's pretty much the Pogba and Mourinho story after that penalties defeat to Derby County in the third round of the Carabao Cup last night for Manchester United. As we know, Paul Pogba wasn't playing. He was up in the stands, and as we now know further, he was posting Instagram videos that haven't necessarily gone down well with the Manchester United manager. Now, he wasn't to know this at the time, it seems, Jose, that he gave this interview to Sky Sports, which followed on from last night's penalties exit at the hands of Frank Lampard's Derby County.
It's the second time in just a few days that you criticised the team for their attitude.
You think I criticised? I don't think so.
You said you didn't get the reaction that you wanted.
That's not criticize the team. I belong to that reaction. I belong to that team. I don't think you are correct when you say I'm criticising the team. Or do you want me to analyse the game, or do you want me to go away?
No, I want you to analyse the game, but equally you're unhappy with the way your team responded.
You want me to say that we did a phenomenal match?
No, I want the truth.
So the truth is exactly that. The opponent in the second half start better than us, and we were not able to match that intensity, which we did after the 1-1, which we did even with the 10 men.
So how big a worry is that for you?
A bigger worry? The Carabao Cup is not a worry anymore, because we don't play until the next season. Is the minor of the competitions we are involved. But I would lie if I say that we threw the match away. No, we want to win the match, and we are disappointed that we drew. And like I told the players in team talk before the match, the new rules, which I agree with the new rules, and I don't disagree because I lost, the new rules would put the favorite team more in danger, because with the draw you had in the past 30 more minutes to play, without the extra time, you go direct to penalties, and I think goes against the team that normally in 30 minutes extra time would win the match. So then you go to penalties, and I never blame a player to lose a penalty, especially because we know clearly, because we trained and because we knew that when it goes in the direction of Jones, Eric Bailly, we would be in trouble then.
A lot of rumours today about a possible fallout between you and Paul Pogba. Is there any truth in that?
No. The only truth is that I made the decision of Paul not to be the second captain anymore, but no fallout, no problems at all. The same person that decides that Paul is not the second captain anymore was exactly the same person that decides that Paul was the second captain, myself. I'm the manager, I can make these decisions. No fallout at all, no problems at all, just one decision that I don't have to explain.
No fallout, no problem at all. Then we saw the footage today of Paul Pogba entering the Carrington training ground for Manchester United training, where he was greeted by Michael Carrick, but not so much by Jose Mourinho. Words were exchanged, frosty looks were most definitely exchanged, and the tension between the two was palpable. To speak about that and a lot more, joining us on the line is Phil McNulty, the chief football writer for the BBC Sport website. Good evening, Phil. We've a lot to get through with this. I suppose this all started yesterday evening. Before the game, there was word that Pogba was not going to be continuing on as Manchester United's alternate choice of captain in the absence of Antonio Valencia. It's a role he's fulfilled 3 times so far this season. He wasn't necessarily asked about it before the game, and when Sky talked about it then, he brushed it off at the time, saying that Paul is being rested. Pogba was up in the stands watching on. That is, as is Mourinho's wont, given the fact that it's the 3rd round of the League Cup. But afterwards, that interview, coupled with the footage from this morning, is a pretty explosive cocktail.
Yeah, I think it's a dam that's been waiting to burst for a few weeks, this one, hasn't it? You can even trace it back to Saturday after the game against Wolves, when Pogba came out and hinted after the game, almost criticising United's tactics, suggested they should have been more attacking. That's what people expect at Old Trafford. And of course, people like me will regard that as a criticism of the manager's approach. But there's been an uneasy relationship for a while, hasn't there? I mean, even after the World Cup final, Jose wasn't particularly effusive in his praise for Pogba. Clearly, there is a split there at the moment, and you'd almost get the feeling that the town eventually isn't going to be big enough for both of them. How that plays out, I don't know, but certainly the last 24 hours, as I say, the dam seems to have burst. I mean, Jose can say there's no problem, but there's obviously some reason why he's taken the vice-captaincy off him, and clearly it would seem to be a problem with his attitude, or whether he said too much, but there's clearly a problem there, no matter how often he says there's no problem. I mean, the evidence is there. As you say, the footage that emerged today looked fairly damning. It was hardly the act of 2 friends meeting each other, and you'd almost hear from the tone of his voice there that clearly he's not happy, and something is going on. And how it's resolved, I don't know, because one is the £89 million signing, the other is the manager. I just think in the end, as I said, I'm not sure the town will be big enough for both of them.
It's something that we speculated upon earlier on the week, that ultimately it's a situation where Manchester United could be left, probably positively in one instance, without either of them come next season, because Pogba, if you're to believe certain rumours doing the rounds, mostly coming from his agent Mino Raiola, is that possibly he wants to engineer a move to Barcelona, and the Jose Mourinho experiment in Manchester United ultimately seems a doomed one. And again, anybody who would envisage him being there next season is probably being fanciful in the extreme.
I think certainly there must be a question about his long-term future, because we've seen how this ends with Jose before. But as you rightly said there, what happens if the club say, right, actually Jose's the one who needs to go and Pogba, we'll keep him? And Jose goes, then Pogba says he wants to go anyway. I mean, what sort of situation is that? I mean, in the end, the club has to back the manager. It's as simple as that. I mean, Jose is the manager of the club. Pogba is a player. I mean, who is the more powerful? It has to be the manager, but it's certainly a very thorny situation, and it just doesn't seem like it's going to go away.
What did that footage say to you today?
It said to me that they aren't getting on. I mean, if you saw me gesturing like that to somebody in the street, or somebody you thought used to be my friend, you would immediately say they are not getting on. What was said, we don't know. Possibly the lip readers in residence might be out this evening somewhere to try and work out what was said to each other. But clearly it was not the body language of 2 people who are getting on. It's very plain to see. I'm amazed that footage was out there, really. You know, Manchester United just open it up for this. I mean, I saw one of my colleagues saying that, you know, do Manchester United want to see Jose showing his power by giving Pogba a bit of a telling off? I'm not so sure about that, but clearly all you can read into it from all the evidence that we've seen in the last 24 hours, the removal from Pogba as the second captain, as Jose calls him, and now the footage we've seen today suggests that there is a rift between the two, and how that plays out, I'm not sure, because at the moment, as I say, there does not seem to be room in the long term for both of them to be at Manchester United.
Yeah, I was going to say, Phil, do we know if there was any negotiations with Barcelona across the summer? Because it seemed that way after he come back from the World Cup that Pogba was being led in a certain direction, the comments that he'd made. Or do we know, is it ongoing at the moment? Is this deal likely to happen going forward for Barcelona or any club to take Pogba away from United?
I think it's just been speculation at the moment, Kev. There's no talk about a definite bid or anything like that. Manchester United certainly made no noises at all that they would sell Pogba. And of course the irony is that when Mourinho first arrived at Manchester United, who was the marquee signing that he wanted above all others? It was Paul Pogba, the man who'd been at Man United, released for a smallish fee many years before. Suddenly they were having to pay £89 million for a guy that they'd let go many years before. He was the one Mourinho wanted, but it's turned sour. The agent, clearly, you would imagine, from what we've seen and read, would like Pogba to move to Barcelona. It sounds like Pogba would like to go to Barcelona, but there's nothing in the way of concrete evidence, and United, quite rightly, have just said, well, he's not for sale, he's our player. But there's clearly a situation building there. You'll know, you've been in clubs where maybe players and managers haven't got on. The body language, the words, everything about it at the moment suggests that there is a real problem there, even though Jose in public is saying there's no problem. Lots of people will decide otherwise, I think.
Mourinho's motivational skills don't seem to be the most brilliant at the moment when you consider another part of that post-match interview with him last night, which he mentioned that when they got down to Jones and Bailly in terms of their penalty takers, he knew he'd be in trouble. Considering they might come across a penalty shootout in the Champions League at some point later on in the season if they make it to the knockout phase, or even in the FA Cup as well, not exactly imbuing his players with a hell of a lot of confidence, and maybe two that obviously are feeling the pressure anyway, given the fact that he made such a concerted effort to get a centre half in the summer.
Yeah, I think maybe he won't want to go to 8 or 9 again, probably. But I know what you mean. And in recent times, he's been very critical of his team, hasn't he? He was very critical on Saturday about the fact that Wolves showed more intent, more aggression, more motivation. And in many ways, motivation is his job. He's got to motivate the players. Of course, the players motivate themselves, but the manager's got to do that as well. And I just think since he reported back in the summer, he's just not seemed happy, has he? His sort of whole demeanour has been downbeat. He feels like he just doesn't feel positive anymore. When he first arrived, he was that mischievous. When I meant arrive in England, really, that mischievous, the special one. He had there was a twinkle in his eye when he said things. He just seems quite tired now. I'm sure he still has the motivation to win, but you almost wonder whether he's currently feeling like he's up against a fight, certainly in Premier League teams, that he can't win. Manchester City are streets ahead of them. Liverpool, I think, now are quite a way ahead of Manchester United under a manager who's really driving them forward. I would never ever underestimate Jose Mourinho, because he has proved he is a success and he can win things in the past, but ever since he came back in the summer, there's just been this sense that something's not quite right with the way he feels about things at Manchester United. He could prove us all wrong as the season goes on, but certainly since the start of the season, you don't get the impression it's been a happy ship.
You get the impression that he's not necessarily putting a hell of a lot of faith in young players either. We've seen the Anthony Martial and Marcus Rashford situations play out this season as well, whereby he's kept them in reserve, and even when they've put in decent performances, as we saw against Young Boys last week, and we have to put that caveat on it, it was only Young Boys, it was only the first game of the Champions League group stage, but Martial looked good, he looked like a player showing intent, and then when it comes down to the Wolves game at home as well, when you think you might need a spark and you think you might need to put away a decent team like Wolves have become, again he's left on the bench, and again you kind of calling on him late on in the game to try and turn things around. It's not necessarily the best way of managing players.
It's mystifying, isn't it? I mean, I saw Rashford playing for England in their friendlies recently, and he scored goals, he looked sharp, the sorts of things that maybe Manchester United need. But Jose has his way. It's been very, very successful for him. I mean, we must never forget that. He is one of the great managers of the modern era, and for people to suggest he's some sort of busted flush now is very, very dangerous talk. But he has his way. He likes his established players. Lukaku is clearly his man. He does talk up Lukaku. He's a big fan of Lukaku. And maybe that just means that the likes of Martial and Rashford have been marginalised. How long they will put up with that, I'm not sure. But certainly he has his way. And I suppose the questions will be asked the longer they don't get good results. Only a draw at home on Saturday. They're now 8 points behind Liverpool at the top of the Premier League. And already the margins for error are so fine, you wonder whether the championship, the title, has gone already. But there just seems to be a malaise over the club at the moment. There's no spark there, and there's this tension clearly underneath the surface. I don't think he got the people in he wanted in the summer. He wanted centre halves who didn't arrive, and as you say, that doesn't do any good for the centre halves he brought in. I mean, he spent around about 60 million on the likes of Bailly and Lindelof, and it seems he wants a couple more new ones now. So no, you're right. There's just something since the start of the summer when he reported back that just hasn't sat right about Manchester United or about Jose.
Phil, I wanted to specifically ask you about that with his lack of signings in the summer. Yeah, I know he got Fred in and the fullback Dalot as well.
Yeah.
So, given that he wasn't, in his own mind, because he's spoken openly about it, Mourinho wasn't necessarily given the fullback in this summer, do you feel there's added pressure on him, certainly around this Pogba issue, and given the fact that he wasn't able to bring anybody in from the board now, do you think that might be added pressure that's coming his way there?
I think at this stage, Kevin, the board publicly and privately are very much behind him. They've said that Ed Woodward is a big supporter of Mourinho. Maybe he feels he has to come out and support him in these slightly troubled times, if you like. But clearly in the summer he wanted some centre-halves. He was linked with Toby Alderweireld. That never happened. I was at the game against Spurs recently, and in the middle of the second half, Toby Alderweireld came across, cleaned out a couple of Manchester United players with a fantastic tackle, and quite a few Manchester United fans turned around to the director's box and started pointing their fingers in the direction of Ed Woodward. So he clearly was made aware of that. He wanted Yerry Mina, who went to Everton, who the talk was that they wouldn't pay the agent's fee in that one. And of course they were linked with Harry Maguire, but Harry Maguire, Leicester were just not in the mood to let him go after his success at the World Cup. So the players he wanted didn't arrive. And I wonder whether that's contributed to the fact that he is feeling downbeat. I think he realised he's got one hell of a fight on his hands now to try and get himself back ahead of the likes of Manchester City and Liverpool. And maybe that's just contributed to his demeanour. But at the present time, I don't think there's pressure on him for his job. I mean, who knows how things can change quickly. But I think at the moment, certainly in the light of when Ed Woodward was talking yesterday about the financial figures that were released, I think at the moment there's no pressure on him. But Jose, things can scale down very quickly with him, as we've seen before at Chelsea twice. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And the fact that we've seen what we've seen in the last 24 hours, sort of 72 hours, will only increase the noise around him, won't it? I mean, you know how it works, Kevin. It's when this thing starts, sometimes it can get a little bit out of control and develop a life of its own. So you need some good results very quickly. And of course, they won in the Champions League. And I think the most annoying thing about it is that he probably thought they'd won away at Watford, they'd won away at Burnley. He probably thought, right, we're up and running a bit now. They had a decent win in the Champions League. And the last 3 or 4 days have set all that back again, and the noise has started again.
When you're outpassed on your home turf by a side like Derby, and it's no disrespect to Derby, they've started the season quite well in the Championship, but approaching 500 passes for Derby, 446 I think it was for Manchester United last night. Derby had the guts of the possession and all that. Those kind of figures don't make for good reading if you're a Premier League side. Yes, it's in the Carabao Cup. Yes, you've made 9 changes, but it doesn't read well if you're heading towards the latter part of the season and look to challenge for trophies.
No, it doesn't, no. And again, that's another thing we go back to. I think there is, not everybody is delighted with the style of play Jose employs. It's been incredibly successful for him in the past. And he will point to spells like when he was at Real Madrid, and certainly when he won the title at Chelsea in his second spell. They played some fantastic football then. But at United, he just hasn't been able to produce that standard of attractive football that they come to expect, certainly under Sir Alex Ferguson at Old Trafford. And people will point at the players he's got and say, well, you have got the players who should be able to produce that. You mentioned Lukaku, you mentioned the likes of Rashford, Martial, there's others there, Pogba you can include as well. And the style of football has been quite stodgy. It's never really, even though he did very well in his first season, he won the League Cup and the Europa League, and that's what he'd been brought in to do. He'd been brought in to win trophies, get Manchester United back in the Champions League. It's just never quite taken off for him. There's never been that sustained period of attractive attacking football that people at Old Trafford really came to think was second nature when Sir Alex Ferguson was there.
Yeah, I'll come off Man United, I suppose, now, Phil. I wanted to talk to you about Everton. I was at Goodison Park a couple of weeks ago for the West Ham game. Was it 10 days or so ago now? Prior to that game, it was...
Have you recovered yet?
Just about barely, I can tell you, barely. It was fairly grim day, yeah, it was. But, you know, going into that, Phil, there was such a good feeling around Goodison before the match, prior to the game, as if, like, Everton are on the cusp of something. Now, it seems to have changed so dramatically in the last 10 days or so, given the result against Arsenal at the weekend as well. Where do you see Everton at the moment? Jordan Pickford, of course, today just signed a new 6-year contract, which is great news for Everton. They're able to keep hold of him, certainly not over the long term. But where do you see Everton now, given the finances that have gone into the club over the last year, 18 months?
I think at the moment, Kev, I think there is a feeling, I think, that Silva is trying to do the right things. I think what was a problem for Everton is that they had a couple of games earlier in the season that they should have won and didn't. They were actually the better team when they drew at Wolves with 10 men. Yeah. And they had the game under control of Bournemouth when they were 2-0 up, gave away a stupid penalty and allowed Bournemouth back in. Probably should have beaten Huddersfield. So there's 3 of, say, the first 4 or 5 games they should have won and only drew. So the points return at that time wasn't reflecting the way they were playing. Richarlison got himself sent off at Bournemouth, which was daft, and he has been outstanding since the season started. And then, of course, the one, as you say, that really knocked a hole in it was the performance against West Ham, because it really was very, very poor. And, of course, they played pretty well again on Sunday, I think, but they're missing that key striker. And the other thing, I think, at the moment is that there are certain players who he signed in the summer who nobody has seen yet. Yerry Mina, who's bought the £30 million centre-half who we talked about before with Manchester United. He was the guy who's meant to be that dominant presence in the central defence. He is near to playing now, so hopefully Everton fans will see him at the weekend against Fulham. Andre Gomes was signed from Barcelona. Still no sign of him being fit to play. And Bernard has been a little bit in and out. He hasn't started the game yet, so hopefully at some point they will all come in and will eventually put Everton more into the direction that they want to go. But certainly I think the next 2 home games in the league, Fulham and then Crystal Palace, I think he needs to win both of them. Not because I think it might end up with him people questioning his job. I just don't think that's going to happen. But just to make people believe a little bit more in what he's trying to do. I think there's also been a sea change in the way they've been trying to play. I mean, you saw them last season. They were pretty grim on the eye under Sam Allardyce. They were very, a phrase I used about Jose before, very stodgy and unspectacular. I think Silva is trying to foster a more attacking style of football, that pressing with a bit of pace with Richarlison, with Walcott. And, of course, Bernard in as a creator. I think one of the big mysteries, and I mean, you will know about this, is Ademola Lookman. I mean, what is going on there? I mean, he is one of the bright young prospects, we are told, of English football, but it clearly seems that he wants to be somewhere else. But Everton have put their foot down and just said, you're not going, you're staying here. Leipzig wanted to pay more than £20 million for him. And since we've seen him this season at Everton, he's been pretty poor on the 2 or 3 occasions he's played as a sub. Almost like he's lacking in motivation and desire to play for the club, because if he is as good as everybody says he is, and possibly as good as maybe people think he is, he would be a real asset to them with that pace and the width. So they need to find a solution to that problem. But I think a bit of time, maybe get 1 or 2 of those people who he signed in the team. Certainly Mina, who will hopefully cure this problem they have. Well, go some way to curing this problem they have. They can't keep a clean sheet. They just cannot keep a clean sheet in the league. That needs solving. And at the other end, they need to solve that problem of the striker. Possibly, I think it could end with Richarlison playing centrally, and maybe Bernard on the left, or maybe Lookman if he can revive himself coming in. But I think at the moment there's a bit of patience. It's early days. There is a transition in style, and that takes time. But I do think, just to keep the wolf from the door, if you like, he needs to win these next 2 home league games, and preferably not go out of the Carabao Cup, because they've got that home tie against Southampton next week.
How do Everton view themselves? Like, what's the 2-year kind of plan for them? Is it to be consistently qualifying for European football? Is it to be challenging for a Champions League place? Because yes, they have paid a lot of money, but you can also look at it in the other aspect that Barcelona were only too happy to shed the likes of Yerry Mina and Andre Gomes and a couple others, and there wasn't necessarily a clamour from top clubs to sign the likes of Bernard. They have spent a lot of money, but does that suggest that they are aiming towards Champions League football?
I think initially, certainly that was the plan when they appointed Ronald Koeman, and they had people forget that Koeman's first season there was a lot of progress. They finished 7th, but last season was a complete car crash, both in terms of recruitment, which seemed to be all over the place. Koeman went early on. Sam Allardyce was in a fairly loveless marriage with Everton and their fans, and it just became a complete mess. There's no other way to describe it. So I think possibly they've scaled back their targets. I think what they would like from Silva this season, certainly what I'm hearing is I think if they finish 6th or 7th and have a decent cup run, then they will regard that as okay for this season. I think they've had to scale back those expectations. I still think there's big ambition there. They've clearly convinced Jordan Pickford there's big ambition there because he's signed for 6 years. But I do think expectations have scaled back a bit. I think after that good first season with Ronald Koeman, and they were going to spend lots of money, which they did, not all of it wisely, in fact a lot of it unwisely. Last season just went wrong on a scale no one could have expected. I think if you ask Kevin, who's a close observer of Everton, nobody at this last August when Koeman was there would have predicted just how wrong that season was going to go, particularly when they did well and got a draw at Manchester City early on, but it fell to pieces. So I think they've scaled it back a bit. I think if they can get European football at the end of this season and have a good cup run, preferably try and at least win something, which they haven't done since 1995, and I think that's where the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup will come in, then I think they'd be satisfied with that. So scale back a bit, but I think long-term, new stadium, they've got big spending power. I think that ambition is still there to push their way into the top 4, but it's a big job.
All right, Phil McNulty, thanks so much for taking a moment to speak to us.
No problem at all, thank you.
Thanks, cheers, pleasure. Kevin Kilbane, it's into 5 minutes of added time at Anfield. Chelsea 2, Liverpool 1. Tell us about that wonderful Eden Hazard goal.
Well, all I'm saying is it's goal of the season. I can't see this being bettered across the course of the season. So Eden Hazard, he's come on here tonight and he's on it. You know when a player's on it. Literally, he's everywhere looking to try to get on the ball. So what he does, he picks up the ball in the centre of the pitch, really. Beats a couple of Liverpool players to start with, and then he gets a lovely little nutmegs. Plays it out wide, goes back and gets the return pass. Then he's still got loads and loads of work to do. He's right out on the right wing. He steps inside Naby Keita, then he nutmegs Alberto Moreno, so he's on an angle, and then he absolutely smashes it past Simon Mignolet in goal. It's just an absolutely incredible goal. It's unbelievable. Anyway, you have to see it if you can get hold of it at any stage tonight, but that is as good a goal as you like to see. I can't see that being bettering across this season. It
was something special. It doesn't necessarily happen if Liverpool have a better left back out there. We're suggesting probably Andy Robertson over Alberto Moreno. But
that's a tricky one to stop, though.
It was a marvellous piece of skill from Eden Hazard all the way around. There's a minute and a half of injury time to go at Anfield, where Liverpool are trailing Chelsea by 2-1. Arsenal look like they're heading for Saturday's 4th round draw. They lead Brentford by 2-1. Alan Judge has gotten on the score sheet tonight for Brentford. Nottingham Forest 3-2 up. They've been given a right rattle in this second half. Not helped by Diogo Goncalves' sending off 14 minutes from time. Benica Fobi scoring, as has Saido Berahino. He can't stop now once he started. He is a tube of Pringles in goal scoring form. And West Ham are 8-0 up. Actually, they've won that game. Full-time whistle has gone. Grady Diagana has got the last couple of goals there. Robert Snodgrass scored twice as well. 8-0 for West Ham over the League 2 side. And there's 11 minutes to play in the 8 o'clock kickoff at Stadium MK, where Tottenham are trailing Watford by an Isaac Success goal to nil. Couple of notable results on the continent tonight. Barcelona have lost for the first time this season in La Liga, going down 2-1 away to bottom side Leganés, and former Liverpool forward Nabil El Jar has gotten on the scoreline in that one for Leganés, and a pretty sensational scoreline on the cards as well at the Sanchez Pizjuan, where 2 Andre Silva goals see Sevilla lead Real Madrid by 2-0. So both Real and Barcelona staring at defeats tonight. Villarreal already 3-0 victors away to Athletic Bilbao. Last couple of seconds being played in injury time. We'll have a result at Anfield after we come back from the break. But first, all this week and off the ball, we are smartening things up. Kev, listen up to this. With Charles Tyrwhitt shirts, each night you have the chance to win a Charles Tyrwhitt voucher worth €300 to be on the chance of winning. We asked you who was and what is Europe's all-time leading point scorer in the Ryder Cup. If you know, text your name and your answer to 52106 30 cent. We will announce a winner later on the show. It's your final chance to win an all-time leading point scorer for Europe in the Ryder Cup. Who is it? Give us your text along with your name and where you're from to 52106 for 30 cent. All thanks to Charles Tyrwhitt, because life is better in a proper shirt.
Football on Off the Ball,
in association with the faster than ever Boyle Sports app, with hundreds of pre-live and in-play football markets. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play.
The Eason Book Club on the Pat Kenny Show.
This month, Eason recommended 4 books for us. The Piranhas by Roberto Saviano, The Labyrinth of the Spirits by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, Verena by Charles Frazier, and our Eason Book of the Month, as chosen by Brian Kennedy, Transcription by Kate Atkinson. In 1940, 18-year-old Juliet Armstrong is reluctantly recruited into the world of espionage. She is sent to an obscure department of MI5 and tasked with monitoring the comings and goings of British fascist sympathisers. But after the war has ended, she presumes the events of those years have been relegated to the past forever. 10 years later, now a radio producer at the BBC, Juliet is unexpectedly confronted by figures from her past. We'll be reviewing the book from cover to cover on Thursday, October the 18th with Mary O'Rourke, Brian Kennedy and Catherine Lynch.
The Eason Book Club on the Pat Kenny Show, sharing book recommendations with book lovers every month.
Do join us and discover more at newstalk.com/Eason's Book Club.
You won't remember a sleepy Sunday, but dreams of Crotty's buried treasure will stay with you forever. Experience Waterford's great stories this weekend in Ireland's ancient East.
Now, what seems to be the problem?
Doctor, every night I dream there's a cow in my garden.
I see. Frisian?
No,
I'm warm enough, thanks.
Frisian. Is it a Frisian dairy cow?
I think so.
Aha, classic mooinophobia, a fear of running out of milk. Thousands have already conquered this fear with mymilkman.ie. Just sign up online and wake up to fresh Avonmore milk on your doorstep, delivered by your local milkman.
And my wife thinks she's a strawberry.
Cream will help. They'll deliver that too.
mymilkman.ie. Fresh milk is just a click away.
Don't miss out on the most epic Saturday of sports ever. Saturday 6th of October, watch Leinster take on Munster, Man United beat Newcastle, and the showdown the world's been waiting for. Conor McGregor versus Khabib. All live and exclusive on Air Sport and free with Air Broadband. Switch today for just $39.99 a month. Go in store or visit air.ie. New customers only, $59.99 a month thereafter, subject to availability. User experience may vary. For full details and terms, see air.ie.
Attention, all vehicles registered in 2011, 2013 and 2015 are now due for NCT. Driving a vehicle without a valid NCT will result in a fixed charge offence and 3 to 5 penalty points if as a result of a court conviction. New changes to the NCT mean that driving a vehicle where the tyre tread depth is below the legal limit is now classified as a dangerous defect. This means the vehicle should not be driven on public roads. For more information or to make a booking, log on to ncts.ie. The NCT for safer, cleaner motoring.
At Expert Electrical, we're always bringing you the latest appliances and technology. For this week only, when you recycle and save with Kenwood, you can get up to €200 off a new Kenwood Chef, and you'll also get a free Kenwood toaster worth €70. There's a local expert near you. Find yours at expert.ie. Terms and conditions apply.
The Republic of Ireland take on Denmark and Wales in the UEFA Nations League on October 13th and 16th at the Aviva. Secure your seat with an FAI season ticket, including entry to special events, exclusive promotions and competitions. It's time to get mad serious. It's time to get your FAI season ticket. Get yours now at faiseasontickets.ie.
You won't remember defrosting the freezer, but the chilling case of the runaway witch will stay with you forever. Experience Kilkenny's great stories this weekend in Ireland's ancient East.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Full-time whistle has gone at Anfield. Chelsea are through to Saturday's fourth round draw of the Carabao Cup, courtesy of that 2-1 victory away to Liverpool. And Kev, it is that Eden Hazard goal that has settled it. And what a goal it is.
We've just seen him being interviewed there now on Sky. He's come on, he's got man of the match. It was just an absolutely sensational goal. You won't see any better than that. I think the keeper might have saved it though, Rich. The keeper might have got a hand to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't.
Just when you get a keeper coming on, you always get a keeper that might have a little bite at that sort of thing.
Yeah, one keeper who may well have saved that were he in action was one Shay Given, who joins us on the line. Good evening, Shay. I'd imagine you're having a nice rest after what was a pretty eventful night last night for you and Derby County.
Good evening, lads. I wish you could see my face because when I hear Kilban speaking, I was just shaking my head. He's talking about goalkeepers again, and he's not got a clue what he's talking about. But yeah, I'm in the quiet of my home tonight, just chilling. Actually, after last night, as you say, we had a great night last night, of course, and delighted to get the win.
Talk us through that night last night, because as we mentioned, you're the head goalkeeping coach now with Derby County. What level of expectation did you head to Old Trafford with last night? Because after a pretty shaky start to the season, things seem to have settled down for Derby in the Championship, and now you look to be clicking. Things are going well. Frank Lampard's got his feet under the table and he's looking to impose his style of play onto the side, and things are going well. You've got a great young side with the likes of Harry Wilson helping you up front too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we had an overly shaky start, and people kind of mentioned that a few times. Rich, I'm not having a go at you, but I mean...
that's grand, it's grand, I'll take it, Shay.
No, we lost the Leeds deservedly so, because they were much better that day, and then we were poor against Millwall, to be fair, away from home, and sometimes you get days like that, but in general we've been okay. The last couple of weeks I think we've really clicked together, and especially Brentford last weekend. The first hour of the game we were fantastic. Even though we went one goal down in the first minute, I thought we were brilliant that game. And so we went to Old Trafford last night with loads of confidence after the game at the weekend. So still a difficult task. Man United got a team of full internationals you're playing against. No matter, I know a few of them might have been rested and they changed the team a little bit, but still you're playing against a fantastic team and the Theatre of Dreams and magnificent stadium and stuff. So it's not an easy game. But we felt going into the game, if we play to how we played against Brentford last weekend, then we give ourselves a chance.
Yeah, Shay, Richie mentioned earlier on you dominated possession last night as well there at Anfield, but what specifically have you worked on in general? You've mentioned there about maybe the start that you've had that maybe was better than even though you've lost games, you're actually playing better than the results suggested, but what have you worked on since you've gone in the pre-season and then into the start of the season? What specifically have you worked on team-wise?
We've changed the way we play. I mean, last year Derby were quite direct. I don't know if you see much of Derby last year, and speaking to the players, of course, and Derby last year were quite direct in the sense of Gary Rowett and stuff, and I'm not having a go at people who play quite direct. I'm just saying that's how they played last year. We've come in and we've tried to change that. We're trying to play it from the back, play through the different lines and stuff, and we've got a few talented players, as you've probably seen last night with Mason Mount and Harry Wilson, with a fantastic free kick last night, but players in positions where they can drop in between defence and midfield and pick up them gaps and spaces where it's difficult for people to pick them up and stuff, and we showed the video even yesterday before we played Man United how well we played against Brentford, in them different situations, and we felt Manchester United, even when we watched the Wolves game, we watched clips of them and what have you, and we felt there was areas that we could exploit against Manchester United, and I think we did that last night. And I think the big thing as well is some people get away from how we play good, balls from the back and through the thing. But I think when we lose the ball, we've got a real plan of how to get the ball back as quickly as possible. We close gaps, we harass people. Every single player last night, and not just last night, but in the whole season so far, have worked ever so hard to regain possession and not let the opposition, settle on the ball. And I think that's massive.
How have you found Frank to work under as a coach? Because it's his first gig as a manager. It's not always that easy to do it in the public glare when you're at a club like Derby County, because they do have a history of all of their own, even if they're not in the Premier League. But how have you found Frank to work under? Has he settled well in your eyes?
Yeah, no, I think so. I think he's very determined to do well. I mean, he's as you people might call him a rookie manager, but there's no stone left unturned. Of course, he brought Jody Morrison and Chris Jones from Chelsea, and they've had managerial and coaching experience. Chris for probably 10 years, and Jody Morris for the last 4 or 5 years at underage level. But they've worked with players and systems and what have you. And Frank's, as I say, he's very dedicated to what we're doing. I spoke to Kevin not on the radio, whatever, but just between ourselves, and we work nearly every day of the week, 7 days a week, and we work hard to get results and get performances and get what he wants out of the team. And Frank's very honest. He's very he sometimes wears his heart on his sleeve in a sense, and maybe in years to come he'll maybe learn not to do so much, because sometimes managers have to keep stuff under wraps a little bit. But he's very passionate about getting Derby back into the Premier League, and that's what we want to do. Of course, last night was the cup game, but we'd love to get them back up to the Premier League, and we'll work ever so hard this season to do that.
How are you finding that yourself? How are you getting time, first of all, to get a nice little glass of wine in the house yourself tonight? But how are you finding it in general? Because you're saying you're working 7 days a week. It's different, obviously, to playing. Of course it is. But what you've been doing over the last year or so with your punditry as well, have you enjoyed getting back into the game full time again?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a strange one, because I've gone from obviously full-time playing to doing the media stuff, and that's like 2 or 3 days a week, and then I've got lots of time to spend with the kids and my missus and what have you, and have family time. And then I've gone from that now, 12 months later, to going to a coaching job, which is literally 24/7. The players go home at lunchtime, and you're in there afternoon watching videos of opposition and games gone past before, and games you play in the future and teams you play against, and it's quite hectic, and you lose a lot of family time, I suppose. But when you get games like last night, and you get that buzz, that excitement, I don't know if you've seen any of the scenes after the game. Like, you think we won the League Cup last night, because that feeling, beating Man United, a massive Premier League club, of course, in their own back garden, was very, very special. And you can't get that, no disrespect, but you can't get that in the media. You miss that sort of hands-on thing, day to day, and then match day, the nerves before a game, and probably even more so now as a coach, you're probably more nervous before a game than what you are after the game, because it's it's so nerve-wracking. So it's just getting that, it's just hard to put into words, but it's the buzz last night we had was more than I'll get from doing the media. I don't mean that in a bad way. I enjoy the media as well, but just
so you dissing my job then? You dissing my job then, Shay? Is that what it is then? Yeah.
No, look, I wouldn't say that. When you come out with comments with goalkeepers, and I will diss it a bit. In general, like, you speak a lot of sense, but sometimes you waver.
I love goalkeepers, you know that.
How would you have felt last night, Shay, facing that free kick from Harry Wilson? Because we saw how it wrong-footed Sergio Romero.
Unbelievable free kick, wasn't it?
Freakish, the way he could have crossed the ball.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. I mean, we see him do it in training, and he does practice, to be fair to Harry, and we set up the walls and stuff, and he does practice, and I think it's that I know Kevin might have tried it in the past, but never came off. But I mean, it's kind of one of them ones that you see Ronaldo do it, and it's the way they hit the ball, and it moves to the right and it moves to the left and stuff. And you look at Romero in goal last night, and for me, from a goalkeeping point of view, he had absolutely no chance because the ball started over the wall and then it changed direction massively and literally ended up in the top corner. And for me, it's unsavable because it's the way they get the ball to move and swerve. It's a fantastic free kick and. Harry's a young player as well, wanting to do well, come from Liverpool, of course, and he's desperate to show the people he's good enough, I suppose, to play for Liverpool. We're delighted to have him this season. Of course, him and Mason Mount have been fantastic.
It's another former Liverpool man, Scott Carson, that I guess you're getting to work with so closely. I suppose it helps to a degree that you got such an experienced goalkeeper and a seasoned one to work with. Yeah, no, he's a fantastic goalkeeper. I mean, he's a joy to work with. I think he's so consistent, and he's a shining light for the other goalkeepers. It's my job's easy in a sense because he's so consistent, not just in games but in training every day. He works so hard, he comes in, and even days after game, the outfield players are doing recovery and ice bath stuff, and he still wants to come out and try and keep improving and do a little bit of goalkeeping just to keep on top of his game. And I was glad for him last night, that the gaffer gave him a bit of a stick after, because it took him 7 or 8 penalties to save one, but he made that all-important save off Phil Jones to get it through the next round. Yeah, fantastic stuff. Saturday's draw awaits Derby County. Shay, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, and enjoy your continued work at Derby County in the coming months.
Yeah, good luck.
Thanks a lot.
There you go, Shay Given speaking to us there live from his home following that penalties victory for Derby last night over Manchester United at Old Trafford. We're seeing multiple replays from every angle of Eden Hazard's goal. It's just fantastic. The low centre of gravity, I was saying to you during the break, when you see players running with that low kind of stance, for defenders it's got to be an absolute nightmare because you don't know which way they're going to twist and turn.
It's how quickly he can check into the next position as well, isn't it? How quickly, as you say, he can turn so quickly he's away. I mean, I was obviously joking about Mignolet there with the goal. It was just an unstoppable shot at the end of it as well. Everything about it is perfect. 2 nutmegs within the move as well for it. The run, beating of the player, it's just an absolutely incredible finish.
And in general, Eden Hazard looks like a player who just absolutely fancies it this season, and there will be very little stopping him throughout the course if he can keep fit.
Well, that's going to be key for Chelsea. What are Chelsea going to do in the Premier League this season if they can keep hold of him? It's a nice little feeler for the weekend. This game's going to be at the weekend. We'll see a much changed Liverpool side going into that, but I think that goal in general, sometimes you come up against a player, and if you play against them quite quickly afterwards, you kind of feel, I fancy this, I'm on it. So that's certainly got to be in Hazard's mind now going forward to the weekend's game.
It looks like we're going to get penalties at Stadium MK because Isaac's successes, we know, put Watford ahead. Dele Alli equalised 9 minutes from time after coming on with a penalty there. Eric Lamela made it 2-1 with 4 minutes to go, and then it was 2-2 Capoue a minute from time, the midfielder levelling things and possibly sending us 2 penalty kicks. We'll possibly have those penalty kicks and a little bit more after these ads.
Off the ball on News Talk.
Sun cream? Check. Nappies? Wet wipes?
Check.
14 changes of clothes?
Check.
And we are ready to leave the house.
You do a lot to protect your family, so now you can protect their future too. Life assurance from Post Insurance can provide a secure future for your family should anything happen to you. Call us on 1890 222222 and see how we can help protect your family's future today. Life assurance from Post Insurance. Life looked after. Acceptance criteria, terms and conditions apply. One Direct Ireland Limited trading as Post Insurance is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. One Direct Ireland Limited is a wholly owned subsidiary of An Post. Post Insurance is a tied agent of New Ireland Assurance Company plc for life assurance business. Life assurance policies are underwritten and provided by New Ireland Assurance Company plc.
Are you an employer? The way you report employee pay and deductions is changing. From the 1st of January 2019, the PAYE system is changing to real time. That means you will report employee pay and deduction details to Revenue when you run your payroll. For a simple preparation checklist, visit revenue.ie now and make sure you are ready for the change.
You join us here at the Ryder Cup as Team Europe take on Team USA. Dear. Go on, get behind Europe with a Now TV Sky Sports Week Pass and stream the Ryder Cup for a one-off payment of just €15. Search Now TV. Content streamed via internet, full terms at nowtv.com.
Don't wait. Get it now at Harvey Norman with interest-free finance terms and great deals on home appliances and TVs, like the Panasonic 55-inch 4K OLED TV from just €60 a month. Or get the Samsung American-style fridge freezer from just €33 a month. Why wait? Get it now with interest-free finance terms at Harvey Norman.
Standard fees, terms and conditions apply, subject to assessment. Finance provided by Flexify Europe Limited. For full terms and conditions, visit harveynorman.ie/flexi-fi.
Some jobs need a master, a mortgage master, with dedication, focus, and expertise. If you need results, you need someone with decades of know-how, with no distractions, no time wasting, and no faffing around. Not a jack of all trades, but the master of one. For a job as important as your mortgage, that's EBS, the Mortgage Masters. Search EBS Mortgage Masters to find out more. Lending criteria, terms and conditions will apply. EBS DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Want to feel alive?